I know, minutes. There we go. Okay, it's recording, everything's good. Get it set back in here. All right.
All right, we ready? Yes,
Yep.
Good. All right, I'm Adeline Gray, and we are here for mental toughness and brutal honesty about it hurting and still getting the job done. So I first want to introduce myself. My name is Adeline Gray. I am an Olympian, and I wrestle for Team USA. Women's freestyle wrestling is what I compete in. I'm a 5-time world champion. I've made 11 national teams. I started wrestling when I was 6 years old, so very tiny. And I worked my way up through middle school, wrestling the boys. In high school, I wrestled the boys. And then I went on to compete actually for Team USA. So I made my first national team when I was in high school, and then transitioned over to competing and training with just women on the Olympic international stage. So I moved to Olympic Training Center. I've been living here on and off pretty much since then. So that consistency is not normal, honestly. Typically, people make 1 or 2 Olympic quads, so we work everything in 4-year increments. This is now me going on to my 3rd, and it's definitely has some wear and tear on the body. Dan Gable said, "Once you've wrestled, everything else in life is easy." And there is a brutality to our sport that truly you have to learn to work through some pain and work through discomfort and work through soreness. And that's kind of what we're here to talk about today. So I want to start with just some kind of easy statements. There's grit, there's delayed gratification, there's eating the frog. There's a lot of statements that people have that mean the same thing. This is all just about pushing through and getting your job done and having the task at hand and working through that discomfort so you can do your job. And the reason I do those things, I really enjoy fitness, and I've worked up to a ability to enjoy what I do. And that's because I have some moments that are really wonderful. So I feel strong and powerful when I wake up, and that's a really awesome feeling. And as a woman who maybe wasn't always told that we could be big and strong and powerful, it's a really empowering thing to wake up and look in the mirror and love my body. And it's a really important thing for me to know that pride of the hard work I put in, and enjoy how strong I feel, and enjoy some of those pieces that come along with the moments after the hard work is done. And I really hope that people get to feel that on a consistent basis, because it's amazing. I have had these highlighting moments that truly are incredible. And I really hope that everyone gets to a point in their lives where they get to feel this amount of joy that they love themselves. And that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about that self-love and that gratification there. And there's pain in life no matter what. So you're kind of choosing your hurt, is how I always describe it. So there's pain when you have discomfort in your body, when you don't appreciate how you feel, or it's not your optimal feeling that you want to be at, like whatever the best version of yourself is. And that discomfort mentally and physically wears on us. And so you kind of choose, do I want to be uncomfortable with where I am now and not go through the uncomfortable moments of change, is really what we're talking about. We're taking this moment of change and creating an environment that we have to push through some discomfort. And that's really where we can make strides. And so we're choosing where we want that hurt to be. Do we want that hurt to be discomfort and sedentary and us being kind of where we are and like settling for that? Or do we want to move forward and set goals and have ourselves in a place where we can really embrace something new and have challenges that are going to feel insurmountable at times? They're going to feel difficult. They're going to feel hard, but you can do hard things. You can really accomplish things when you have small goals and you do them one at a time. And if you're able to focus from whatever is going on outside and just get that one task done, that's how you create consistency. That's how you get 11 and 12 years of a national team. Isn't by doing 12 years of work in one moment. We can't do that. We do it one step at a time. And that's what I kind of want to impress on everyone, is that my job is painful, but I am able to break it down into I felt pain. Now what is my task at hand? Let me get that job done. And so there is something we need to make sure we understand. There's a difference between pain and injury. You need to learn to trust yourself on what that is. So pain is something we can push through. Pain is a flesh wound. Pain is a bruise. Pain is soreness. Pain is things that are going to happen. They're happening in our lives already. So it's just choosing that pain and embracing some of that pain and not suffering with it. And we'll get to that in a little bit. Injury is something that is going to take you out of work for a few days. Injury is something that's going to require surgery. Injury is something that is going to make it so you cannot do your life for weeks. We're talking like long term here. So that is the separation between pain and injury. Pain is okay. We need to embrace that pain is part of our lives, and that is okay. Injury is when we have to stop, we have to reevaluate, and we have to take our time to get to small places. And we will discuss on how injuries can really you can still make gains even if you're injured. The body is amazing at compensating. It's amazing that you can use your legs when your arms don't work. I mean, I don't know if you guys have had any experience with Paralympic athletes, but it is truly incredible how adaptable the body can be. And we are adaptable. We don't have to go through something as traumatic as losing our arm to realize that we can still use our legs if our arm hurts. So I want to talk about soreness a little bit, because I think that's the biggest thing when people get into working out, that they don't embrace it enough. They think it's bad. Soreness to me is delayed gratification. So if I work out, I feel a little sore the next day, or maybe a lot of soreness, like I can't walk down the stairs. And that soreness is my body rebuilding. I get encouraged by that soreness because it is building my body back up. Our bodies do heal. And it's incredible that we can break our bodies down, which is what you do during a workout. You break it down, which causes a little bit of pain. And then you build it back up slowly over time. And you embrace that soreness a little bit to feel that blood flow, to understand that there is an attachment in knowing your body. I do a lot of stuff with meditation. And with the meditation, we focus on being in the moment. You are in the moment when you are feeling that soreness, okay? You try to take a step up the stairs, every single step you truly feel. And so I want that to kind of be a little bit of, you guys are meditating when you're sore walking up the stairs, because it's something that we are able to tap into some of the rebuilding that's happening with our body that we usually ignore, because your body is rebuilding all the time. Your cells are regenerating, you're having turnover. We just are now building a better body when we have that delayed gratification from the soreness that we created the day before. And so soreness is how I approach like spiciness. So some people like spicy, some people don't. We're not overly judgy on if someone doesn't like spicy or if they do. You have like decathletes and like athletes that run 1 million miles in a time. And I believe those are people who like to eat the habanero peppers and like do the zesty things of like almost dying when they, ingest things that are super spicy. But jalapenos are perfect to me for spiciness level because I really like jalapenos. I can typically eat whatever meal has a jalapeno, but if anyone who enjoys jalapenos knows that you never really know what you're going to get, because sometimes they taste like a green pepper and sometimes it tastes like you need a gallon of milk. And the spiciness doesn't deter me from eating it. I'm still going to enjoy my Mexican food. I'm still going to power through the tingling in my lips and the spiciness in my stomach and the uncomfortableness and a little bit of warmth in my belly. And I know that that's okay. Like I've had that experience over and over again. And that's what we're essentially doing with soreness. We're training our brains to know that just because this burns a little bit doesn't mean it's bad. Jalapenos are good for you. They increase your metabolism. They have some good vitamins and minerals. It's a vegetable. So soreness in jalapenos is how I want people to kind of think about it if they are struggling to think about soreness, that this jalapeno probably tastes different than this jalapeno does on spiciness level, on whatever heat you want to apply to this. And that's kind of how I feel with my workouts. Sometimes I go into a workout and I've had a really easy week, had a nice recovery weekend, just, chilled with my sister and did pretty much nothing. Can't come in and I crushed my workout. And that kind of is like when you get a jalapeno that tastes like a green pepper, you're like, oh, let's put some more on. Like, let's put 2 jalapenos on there. And then all of a sudden you chop up that second jalapeno and it's way too much. And you're like, okay, now I need to slow down a little bit and eat my jalapeno and just make sure that I'm enjoying this spice and completing my meal. I'm not going to stop eating just because something's a little spicy. And that's workouts to me. Sometimes I do squats and they feel terrible, but I still get my squats done. And I sometimes go in and feel awesome in a workout and I add more, which is the spicy level that you're trying to achieve and that builds up bodies. And so if analogy, great. If you don't, it's okay too. So I do want to go through what injuries are. Injuries are something that requires surgery is typically how I think about it. Is this something that's going to put me out from days from my job? So I was in China. My mother is watching right now. Sorry to relive this memory for you, Mom. I was wrestling. So little backstory. 2009, I made my first world team. I took 5th in the world. I was a teenager. It was a good experience because I was like, can I do this? I had this very unknown experience. And so come into 2010 and I started beating everyone. And I was just like, I not only can do this, but I can be the best at this. And I was having a wonderful tournament. I'd won every match at the World Cup, which is the top 8 teams in the country, or I'm sorry, in the world, competing against each other in a dual style tournament. So dual styles where the teams line up and then wrestle each other one at a time. We don't do very many team events, so it's kind of a fun and different experience for wrestling. So we are in the last match against Ukraine, and the Ukrainian woman shot in on a high crotch, which is a crossbody single leg shot, and her shoulder hit my kneecap, and it popped out. And I fell to the ground, scream. The entire arena fills with my scream. The camera cuts off. My mother is watching. And this was in 2010. I didn't have a cell phone that connected. Like, she just went days without hearing from me after I died on camera. And so my trainer comes out, I fall to the ground. I feel my kneecap over by my IT van. And as I fell, I pushed it back into place and was in so much pain. I'm like, this is not good. Whatever just happened is bad. I end up in a brace. They had to go to the next town to get me crutches. My teammates had to carry my stuff. I was helpless. It was awful. And I had to get myself back to the United States. So I get back, they tell me, kneecaps dislocate, it's okay. We're going to rehab this for a month. And at the time I was trying to do something a little unusual. I was young enough to compete in the juniors, but old enough to compete in universities. And then once you're good enough, you can compete in seniors, which is the International USA Wrestling, or Team USA. And so I was going to try to make all 3 teams. And so the trials were back to back to back. And so I had these deadlines that I was like, cool, if I can be back by Junior Worlds, which was 10 days away. And I did not make that one. And then they're like, let's not do juniors and let's just focus on university. So university was about 2 months. So I'm doing my rehab and I can't get past this level 1 rehab. I would spend 3 or 4 days getting my swelling out. I would then do this very basic rehab. And we're talking stand up and just do those baby little squats, on the ball on the wall. We're talking 3 inches. My knee would swell up. I would have so much pain. I couldn't walk. And then these dates just kind of kept ticking by. And then the senior championships were happening 3 months after. And at 3 months, they had told me I was going to for sure be fine. End up walking into trials on crutches. And I'm like, I'm not fine. My kneecap's still dislocating. Something's wrong. I end up having to have surgery. And I should have been a little bit more upfront with the situation. This was an injury. This was something that was traumatic. I had happened and I had to take care of it. So I did 8 months of rehab after my surgery. I got back into competing and my leg was never the same. And there's a very smart man. He's one of my mentors, John F. Register. And he calls it his new normal. So this was my new normal, that I now have a leg that doesn't do things that I feel like it should do. And should's a very damaging word. It's a very dangerous word to kind of have in our vocabulary as athletes, as human beings, because it's setting this expectation of what could have been. And that's a fallacy. That's something that could have happened, should have happened is such a beyond our control concept. And every day I feel like my leg should do something more than it does. Like the people watching this film right now have a right leg that is probably better than mine. But I have to tell you that I have accomplished more with this piece of shit leg than I have than I ever thought imaginable. It is good enough to win. I have seen 30 physical therapists, and every time they ask me, oh, how long has it been since surgery? And I'm like, 10 years, happened in 2010. They're like, and you can't do this? I'm like, yeah, this is just kind of what it is. So I've had to adjust things to make it so I can still do my job. So I did have to make some adjustments. I did have to not run anymore, but I bike so often. I walk, I find other ways to do my cardio. There are things that limit me and make it so that it's harder for my leg to recover. So I alter those and switch out those exercises and get creative and find smart people to help me feel better with just doing posterior chain exercises and finding ways to really work through what this leg can possibly do. So my baby sister named him Voldemort, and we don't speak about him. So we'll move on to the fact that, but stuff is going to happen. We're going to stub our toe. It's just part of where we are as human beings. Hopefully they develop a pill for it. But for right now, we are going to have pain. Pain's going to be a part of our lives. My knee is going to be painful. Like that is something that is just true. Like it is a fact that my leg is going to hurt. My leg hurts every time I take a shot. 90% of wrestling is shooting. There are days I go into practice, I'm like, this is going to suck. But that's suffering. When I try to picture what is happening for the whole practice, that is when we really have, oh yeah. A wrestling shot is when you lower your level and try to take like a single leg or a double leg and take them down. So a shot is when I am essentially like hitting my knee onto the mat to get lower than that person and then attack their leg so I can take them down to the mat, and that scores 2 points. So that's most of what wrestling is you see takedowns, especially in international wrestling, we wrestle on our feet. And so that anticipation of pain is suffering. Acute pain, you live in that moment and then it goes away. And you can kind of ask yourself, like, am I okay? And we've all done that, right? We've all stubbed our toe and been like, am I okay? And sometimes the answer is like, no, I need a second. And that's fine. Take your second, take your deep breath, and then get into that next moment. Because we don't sit there and take our toe and stub it over and over and over and over again. But when we think about it like that, that's what we're doing. The brain is incredibly powerful, and you can recreate pain by thinking about it. And you can feel the same amount of stress and increase your cortisol levels to that exact same amount by thinking about the stubbed toe that you just stubbed. And stubbing your toe hurts badly. And that rush of pain that you feel goes away pretty quick. And so I just want people to kind of challenge themselves on not dwelling on the pain. So there's a couple of things you have to kind of do. You have to make sure that if you're worrying about pain, that I'm worried about this workout, I'm worried about this. And everybody's done school. And when you start the semester and they give you that syllabus and they look at all the assignments you have to do, you're like, I could never do that. And that's how I feel about pain. I could never go through a wrestling practice with the amount of pain my knee is. That's how I feel before every practice. I'm like, no, that looks way too much. But I'm actually really capable of doing one moment and doing one rep and doing one episode of whatever we have to do. Like whatever the task at hand is, I am able to block out 60 minutes of wrestling or 60 minutes of squats, and I am able to do one squat. And then we go on to the next squat. And that could be the only squat we do for that day until we do the next one. And if you're able to kind of block your brain to understand that one squat, and even if there is some pain in that squat or in that moment, that next moment you take a breath and you're okay. And there's this dangerous thing about expectations where if we expect pain, then we're worrying about pain, right? And expectations are so dangerous because they kind of set us up for failure pretty often. And so if we go in with expectations that it's going to hurt, most likely it's going to hurt because you already manifested that in your head. But sometimes if you go in with a clean slate and you do that squat, there are days I wake up and I'm like, oh, look at you moving. Got off the toilet, no problem. And it's exciting. Like those are good days, but there are some days that I catch myself worried about if I'm going to be able to like get off the toilet without having pain. And that's me suffering. And that's what you have to separate in your brain, is the difference between pain and suffering. That's the difference between being in the moment and actually just being overwhelmed by what pain is. This concept of all the homework that you have to do through the whole semester. It's impossible to do all of our homework in one setting. It's impossible to do 4 years of wrestling in practice. So let that happen. Let that be a future you problem. And we are able to break it down into literal moments. Like we're talking 10-second breaks of, I can do this for 10 seconds. In wrestling, if you're getting overwhelmed and you're getting beat, what we do to help people is go in. Oh, it's connected to the phone.
There we go. We're live.
Oh, excellent. Hi, everybody. We took a quick bathroom break.
Sorry about that.
Welcome back. My name's Adeline, in case you forgot. So I want to tell you, my teammate was very helpful in helping me refocus. So I would be training and I would get up from a takedown and I'd be standing up. And it's really difficult to get from the ground to standing up. It's really the hardest thing for me when wrestling. And I would groan or whine or be like, oh, or whatever just got hit. I'd just whine about it. And she would say, mental toughness, and like just yelled at me. And it was a little intense sometimes. I was like, get away. But it really helped me realize that I was not in the right moment, right? I was reliving a moment. And that's the opposite, or that's like the third step, right? We have anticipation of pain. We have the wallowing of the pain, like, oh, I'm in pain. And then we have the buildup of it. So that wallowing is what we're kind of talking about right now. Like, I just stubbed my toe. Complaining about that stubbed toe or complaining about what just hurt is keeping that pain alive a little bit longer instead of us going to that next task and getting our job done, whether that be our next bicep curl or our next bike sprint, or realizing that we still don't have our breath caught for that next exercise and still being able to do our job and like getting the task at hand done. And so I recommend having a little statement that helps you refocus a little bit. So for me, I had an extra person that yelled at me, and maybe it's Sandy that can be your person that says mental toughness or, just something that's, even if it's a little obnoxious, that you can just tell yourself. But I find myself when I like fall and like just kind of twist my finger a little bit in wrestling, I would come up and kind of flex my hand, and then I'm just like, mental toughness, and I shake it off and I go. And I'm like very thankful that my teammate was obnoxious about that, because she would see me get up and like start feeling sorry for myself. I'm like, my neck hurts or my elbow. I want to lick my wounds for a second. I want to like get up really slow. That thing that we do after our workouts that you get up really slow, like hoping that will make the time longer between your next set. Like that's you wallowing. Like that's that moment that you need to tell yourself like mental toughness. And so bringing yourself into that little bit of a Kickstarter into that next moment. And so 2016, I had shoulder surgery, and coming back in 2017, I decided, I'm like, do I want to get back into wrestling? Like maybe. I was like, and I wasn't quite sure if I could do it. Like I had 2 years kind of off of winning at wrestling, and getting back in, I made the team. Domestically, but internationally, there's a lot of depth at my weight class. And so I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to go back from, because I won 2 world titles in the previous quad. And there's not many people who've done it. So there's only one person who's won 5 world titles, and that's me. And it hadn't been done until I did it. And so going in and winning 3 titles, I was like, there's only 2 people who've ever won 4. So the chances of me winning 4 are pretty low. And so going in 2017, I had some reservations on if I was going to be able to get back to the top. And then while I was training, I hurt my back in the most like mundane way. I literally just woke up one morning and was like, I threw my back out. And I don't know what I did, but my back hurt. And all of us have experienced some sort of back pain. And I went to all the doctors, and I am very lucky that Team USA supports me, and they allowed me to go see physical therapists and somebody needled and cupped and doctors, and I got MRIs and all this stuff. And they were just kind of like, your back's tight, like we can't figure it out, and nothing helped. And so I spent all this time and all this effort and felt like I wasted a lot of people's time trying to figure out how to get my back better. And it just wasn't getting better. And I called my coach and was like, you need to bring the number 2. I don't know who she is. I don't know where she is, but you need to get her ready. And he's like, nope, you hurt is better than our number 2. So you need to figure it out. And I'm like, it's not what I called you to hear. I was like, I called you to tell you that I'm hurt and injured and I can't do it. And he's like, nope, you're going to figure it out. He's like, we've got 2 months. You're going to get better. And I couldn't do so many things that I felt like I should be able to do. And I finally just started walking for 45 minutes, and my back would loosen up enough that I could do a few things. And I was doing 2 45-minute sessions of walking to get my back loose enough that I could do very specific task drills. So a task drill is like wrestling match would you'd shake hands and you'd hand fight, and then you'd get in on a wrestling shot and take the person down. A task drill would be, I'm already in on the shot, and so I'm just finishing the shot. So this particular shot, I was like coming to practice every day. I was walking for 45 minutes before practice, like trying to get my back warmed up, like putting so much effort in to do like almost nothing is what it felt like at practice. And I still was showing up every day and I still was trying. And my coach finally found a drill that he's like, this looks like it might hurt your back, but let's try it. And he talked me into trying it. And we just did this little drill where I got down on my knees and I grabbed the person's leg and I like curled my back up like this and extended my arm and got brown behind them. And that's a pretty difficult finish of wrestling. Like it's probably, what would you say, Geneva? Like 30% if somebody gets in there. So less than 30% of people finish this shot this way. My percentage is much higher than that, thankfully. And I practiced this drill exclusively. Like I just did rep after rep. And for some reason, this particular drill didn't hurt my back. And so I show up in Italy for our training camp before the World Championships. And I was not able to get into a wrestling stance. And so I was just doing upper body workouts. Like I'm still looking at my coach like, are you sure you want me? Are you sure? I don't think I'm the right one. And I just showed up on that day and I won another world title. And I cried when I won because I got to hold this medal and I was so proud of my body and I was so proud of my mind to push through this discomfort that was in my body. And I figured out a way to train enough. And I figured out a way to show up for myself every single day enough to win another world title. And it was amazing. Like I was really impressed with my capabilities to get into this shot. And I just want people to know they can do hard stuff. I didn't think I could do hard stuff. And this thing felt too big. And I was able to do one match at a time. I was able to focus on what I could control and get what I needed done to get my job done. And that made me a world champion again. And to stand on top of a podium and to feel like you're the best person in the world again is a really cool feeling. And I got to do that. And I got to do that with a back injury that I felt like I didn't know what was happening. Like I was hurt. But you can push through hurt. You can push through pain and you can have this task in front of you and complete it, even if you don't feel ready. And so another fun story, I went in the next year and I hurt my hand. And I was wearing an MMA glove. Do you guys know what that is? It's like a boxing glove, pretty much was what it is. So wrestling is a lot of gripping and grabbing and a lot of hand stuff. And so I was trying so hard to use this MMA glove that essentially the point of me wearing the MMA glove was so I didn't extend my hand and so I couldn't grip very hard. So the purpose of it was to immobilize me. And I had my hand taped up below that. And I was trying really hard to wrestle with it and I wasn't doing a very good job. And so I had to kind of reevaluate and I had to figure out like, okay, there's a lot of different areas of my body I can still work on. There's a lot of different things I can still do within wrestling. And so how can I figure out how to still do my job, even if I have this main number one step? You know, I still needed to lift weights and yet I had to lift with like this hook thing, but I figured out a way to do it. And there's ways you can figure out to still do your workouts, even if you're missing a hand. And so I hurt this hand and it was hurt for probably 6 months. And I had to get a cast on it for a time period, got the cast off. And then I went hiking and I fell and I cut my hand open on this side. So this hand's totally taped up. And then I had surgery on this hand and I got, oh, is this hand actually? So this hand was the hurt one. This was the surgery one. And so I cut my hand open so deep that I severed the nerves in my pinky and my finger. Yeah, fun. So I got it stitched up and I had a little cast on it and my wound wasn't healed by the time we got to World Championship. So I now have 2 little like mitten claws. Yeah, it was the most uncomfortable thing because I just felt like I was trying to do everything like this. Like I couldn't open a water bottle. There were so many things I couldn't do without my hands. And I was so frustrated. Like I couldn't brush my hair. I was struggling to do so many things. And I had to use these little hook claws when I was in the weight room. And they were pulling on my wrists terribly. And I figured out that I didn't need my hands to win. And I still managed to win another world title, which is the necklace that's on my neck currently. And I became a 5-time world champion with no hands at that tournament. I had both hands, like one of my hands was literally like padded, and I hadn't completed like a practice yet because I didn't have the range of motion post-surgery to do. So I went to a practice the week before World Championships, and my teammate, it was like my first live go, and I level changed and I punched her leg, and I didn't mean to, and it hurt so bad. I like dropped to my knees, and my coach looked over. He's like, "What happened?" He's like, "I don't even understand. You've been wrestling for 10 seconds." And I'm like, "My hand went like this, and it hasn't done that yet." And so it was really painful. So I went over some techniques with my, like, there's about this, and it'd be painful. We're just going to ignore it. I'm like, if I have this happen during the tournament, I want you to come up to me and I want you to pinch the back of my arm to remind me that there's other body parts. And so when I have pain, that's like, oh my gosh, I can't deal with that, and I want to push it away, and you get that feeling that you're like, oof, that's not okay. I find something else that, you've heard this as a kid, right? Like, smack your arm if you have a hurt foot kind of thing. It works though. It reminds you that there is another body part. There's another area of your body. There's not all of your focus and blood in this one area. And I didn't have an issue with my hand at the World Championships. And like, I know there was a lot on the line at that moment. But I still thought it was so incredible that I was struggling to like get my hand like barely tapped 7 days before, and then have people who clearly know that both hands are taped. They're in white tape that's like boxing mittens here, and still be able to get my job done and still win another world title. And so at that moment, I became a 5-time world champion. And it was amazing that it happened even through pain and discomfort. Consistency equals delayed gratification. And that's a weird concept, but if you stay consistent with your workouts, if you can show up for yourself, even when you have pain, even when you have discomfort, adjust your workout to do what you can for that day. And so there's different levels to it. Sometimes it's pushing through soreness. Sometimes it's pushing through the pain. Sometimes it's realizing you're like, I can't deal with that. We're going to work on the lower body. We're going to find ways that if my back's hurt, I'm going to find ways to just use my arms and, work on that. I'm still going to make strides. I got better even through these massive injuries, even through someone telling me that I couldn't use my hands. Like, I walked into practice like this, like these little claws, and I still was able to do what I needed. So I'm wrapping it up. The few takeaways I want you guys to make sure you understand are the difference between pain and injury. You can still get what you need done through pain. You can push through soreness. Soreness is you did something right the last day. You are creating change in your body that your body is rebuilding, and trust your body to rebuild that. Give it the proper nutrition, give it the proper hydration, give your body a chance to heal that area and allow yourself room to truly improve and make those strides, even if things hurt. You're gonna have moments that things are not going to work the way you want them to, and you can still get better. You can still improve something, whether that be your mind, whether that be your lower body. I feel like I switch upper body to lower body probably like every 3 months. I'm like, oof, this is too much. Let's just focus upper body. And my weightlifting coach like switches my routine to a little bit more upper body. And then I hurt a hand and we go back lower body. So there's like, life kind of adjusts my workouts for me. I want you guys to know that you're good enough to win and you're good enough to do your workouts. You're good enough is a really empowering statement because you don't have to be great. You don't have to be 100%. My leg will never be 100%. This is my new normal, that I'm going to have discomfort. I have damaged cartilage in my kneecap. It just is what it is. It's going to hurt. And I can still do my workouts. I can still push through those painful experiences because my body heals, and I try really hard not to dwell on that pain. And it's not a perfect process by any means. You're going to have struggles where you worry about pain. And as long as you catch yourself and bring yourself back to this moment that you are right now, that you're okay. And that's a really important thing. You are good enough is a very important sentence for you to say to yourself. And I say to myself all the time, I can say my leg is shit and it's not doing well today, but it's good enough to win and it's good enough to get my workouts in. And that separates me from being in this ideal situation where I have to feel pristine to get my job done. You don't have to. It's nice. Those days are wonderful. Don't get me wrong. When you're rested and hydrated and well-fed and well-rested, it's great. Revel in those days. But most of those days do not create world championship medals. It's the days that you have to be consistent and fight yourself to wake up and get your workout in, and fight yourself to make sure you're staying hydrated through the day, and fight yourself to push through that discomfort and that soreness to still make strides. Suffering is a choice. That's another one I don't want you guys to beat yourself up about, because you're going to feel yourself suffering sometimes. Sometimes you're going to stub your toe and you're going to call your mom and you're going to talk about it. And she's going to be like, I bet that really hurt. How is that helping you right now? And I kind of want you guys to catch yourselves when you're telling your friends about, that soreness, or you're bitching to yourself about this hurting. Like, that is the choice that you have in suffering. Pain is unavoidable. It's going to happen. But suffering is the choice. Don't dwell on the pain. Don't dwell on the buildup of all the pain you've ever had. I feel like I do that sometimes with my knee. Like, I'll take one shot and my knee will crash into the mat. And I've had a few really awful experiences where like it's hit like harder surfaces, or didn't hit a plush mat, or I hit somebody else's leg and it hurt so bad. Like, it was like level 10. I was laying on the ground, like I can't go on. But every shot I take is not a level 10. And sometimes I find myself taking every shot I've ever taken in the last 10 years and dumping that into my leg and into my heart and feeling every ounce of pain I've ever felt. And I think we do that when we watch movies. You like have a movie come on and you like feel that heartbreak because of every heartbreak you've ever felt. Don't do that with your pain, because it's very easy to do. It's easy to remember every ounce of pain you felt in that body part and apply it to this moment. But most likely, this moment's not the worst pain you've ever felt. And so separate that and identify that. Start to learn your body and start to learn what level 10 pain is, and start to pull back and see what you can do to get to level 5, and see how that strength and the endurance creates more room for you to be able to do more in your day and your workouts and alleviate some of that pain. And then the final thing is, if you are looking for permission to be tough, here's your permission. You can be tough. You can be tough. Please know and love yourself enough to know that you can do hard things, that you can push yourself, that you can accomplish a lot more than you expect yourself to. And it's really powerful to live that. And so I really hope that you guys at least take that little piece, that just because you say this is hard doesn't mean you can't do it. You can state this is hard and I can do it. And that's a very important thing for us to learn. You guys do hard things all the time. Why not just apply that in different areas of our life and create change that are going to be lasting, that'll create years on our lives, that will just allow us to really be able to live a better life. And so here's your permission fully from a 5-time world champion and Olympian. You have permission to be tough. You have permission to push through some pain. You have permission to give yourself permission to do these jobs, because they can be hard. And I understand. I've pushed through some pain and it's awful at times. And I do feel that, but know that it's okay. It's okay to feel some pain. It's okay to be sore. It's okay to give yourself permission to do a little bit more. So that's all I have for right now. If we want to start some questions, my name is Adeline Gray, and I hope you guys learned something in the brutal honesty about pain. Any questions from anybody?
Jeff Armstrong asks, I should ask me, if you could go back in time and change one thing, what would you change?
One thing, I wouldn't have gone hiking one day after I hurt my other hand. That is definitely one in the last few years. That one was so frustrating. I was up on the mountain and I slipped and I fell and I was like, are you kidding me? Like I could not, I was in utter disbelief. I'm like, this is 2 months from world championships and I am severely injured.
Do you think you would have still won a world championship without that injury?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I still had this hand to bother me. I still was one-handed. I just didn't think I needed to be at a point of being two-handless. Like there's certain levels of challenges that you should be able to do in your life or should do that you do in your life. And I didn't feel like I needed to go through two hands.
So Jeff is actually via Zoom from Oregon. He's a professor at Western Oregon University.
Oh, cool. We were just out in Oregon. It was good. Nice. Hi. That's awesome.
All right. Sarah asks, I had surgery to remove a melanoma above my inner ankle about 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a lot of tenderness and sometimes soreness under the surface, while everything, muscle and nerves, etc., are healing underneath. The doctor said it would take about a year in total. My question is, when I feel discomfort in my leg, is that pain or is that injury?
So you have to know that, and it stinks, but you have to go through those experiences and test the limits of it. And so I can't answer that question for you, unfortunately. You have to do a little bit more and then the next day evaluate or an hour later and do things to help yourself. Make sure you're staying hydrated, ice the area or wrap it or elevate it, whatever your doctors are telling you to do. I've found with nerve things, I've had a nerve issue on my hand. The thing that's helped me is a loofah. It sounds really weird, but just learning the sensation. And I'm sure that a PT and a doctor has more advice than I could probably offer, but the loofah teaches that there's some skin contact that's different, and it's helped me kind of reconnect my brain to those nerves. And so it's something low impact that you can kind of just scrub a toothbrush or a loofah or whatever that area kind of fits, that's a little bit coarse, a rough washcloth, and just rub that a little bit and see. And the only way you can really test is by testing yourself. So you start with doing a little bit, you go for a walk, you do half your workout. Like I always start with like 2 reps of 5 is what I do for my first workout. And then I wait a few hours and I see how I feel. And then the next day I check how I feel. And if I feel fine, or I just feel a little bit of soreness, then I add my 3rd set. And then once I test that out, then I go to the next level. And so you just kind of have to keep adding things in until it's too much, and then you back off a little bit. And so that's kind of how you build those little baby steps up to be able to do a full workout and then continue to test it. So once you recover a little bit, take usually within like 48 hours, unless you're dealing with like a severe spine injury that might take a little bit longer. Most body parts are going to feel pretty good between like 24 and 48 hours, and you can start to test that again. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay, Debbie asks, did you make the Olympic team in 2020? If so, how did that impact you?
So the 2021 Olympics is what's coming up. So I qualified for the team in 2016, and then the 2020 Olympics got postponed to 2021. So I won the World Championships in 2019, and that sets me into the finals of our Olympic trials. And so currently I still have to win 2 more matches on April 2nd and 3rd in Fort Worth, Texas, for our final Olympic trial for me to be on the team. But I have a pretty good shot at making the team again. So this will be, my 12th national team, and pretty excited for it. So I didn't make the team in 2012. That was my first quad that I had trained in. And we at that time only had 4 weight classes. And so for 2016, we had 6 weight classes, and I did make the team for that one. And then I'm on track to make the team for the 2021 Olympics. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, we're coming into the home stretch here.
Right, Charlotte, she has a little bit of a story. Pain is not the same for everyone. multiple spinal cord injuries, lost sensation in different parts of the legs and neck. Some days my arms don't move, been in a wheelchair for 12 years. Started walking with a walker to get my butt out of the wheelchair. Now I'm doing this challenge to lose the weight of 12 years of sitting, still has done. And easy over healthy habits. Eat healthy food habits. January was every other day, 10 minutes of walking. February, every other day is 15 minutes. And I started adding an extra 5 minutes every 2 weeks. My goal is for walking 90 minutes in 90 days. The last day I'll be walking 1.4 miles.
Wow. That's awesome. I mean, that's really what we're talking about, right? Like we're pushing through and adding a little bit more time after time. And that's awesome. Congratulations and keep at it. You are correct. Pain is not the same for everyone. The same way spice isn't the same for everyone. I have a teammate who you put pepper on her meal and she's like, it's too spicy. And so there are people that have a different tolerance for spice level. And then there's like my father who could literally consume every pepper ever and be like, I love the sweating that's happening. And so there is that different levels of it. No judgment if you're the spicy person or the not spicy person. I don't care what kind of food you like, but we can increase what we're doing every single time. So maybe we're adding 1 kernel of pepper, maybe we're adding 7, maybe we're adding 2 jalapenos. So everyone's at a different level. Compare yourself against yourself instead of others. And I think that's very helpful to kind of achieve an understanding about what your body's capable of doing.
And next question is from Stephanie. How do you overcome the fear of injury or pain? Meaning, how do you coach yourself up to push yourself to try again?
The first thing I do is I don't know the full answer. I wish I did. I have this like a little bit of unknown, like why am I great kind of conversation. It's kind of I was pretty good at wrestling pretty young, and it's always kind of something that dwells in the back of my head. I'm like, why am I better at this than a lot of people are? Like, why am I able to do certain things because I'm not the strongest athlete. I'm not the fastest. Like there's not one thing that you can pinpoint and be like, that's why you're a champion. And so I say that, but over the time I have been able to talk to people and I'm like, oh, you don't do that? And it's interesting because there's certain things mentally that I found that I do that have given me room. So we call it our freeing moment when we go out there and wrestle and have space to truly wrestle. So you're not like holding on to losing or trying to not lose is different than winning. It's like a very small instance, like word, just semantics there, but it's a very different mentality, whether you're going off offensively and trying to win versus defensively and like trying to hold on to like what you could lose. And that's kind of how I approach that same idea with my workouts, is that I try to embrace some of the suck is kind of what's part of it is, that it's going to be okay. Like whatever my injury is, I'm going out with the understanding that I'm good enough to not die. That's kind of like a very low bar. But but honestly, it's helpful to kind of know I'm not going to die from this. So even if it does hurt, the worst thing that's going to happen is it's going to hurt. And I've already experienced some of that hurt. So I think some of it's just having some perspective and zoom out that you're not going to die. it might hurt, and that sucks, but you're tough and you can do it again, like we'll try it. And then some of it's just some like pure belief and confidence in myself that I have practiced over and over again. Like some of it's just me telling myself that I am good enough to come through an injury. And so because I have done it, I've proven to myself that I can break my hand and still win a world championship, that I can stub my toe, still put my shoe on, like there are little steps that you do to create this environment that you live in our brains, and trusting ourselves to be confident enough to do certain things. And we have to kind of test that confidence. And so that's what my recommendation would be, is like just testing it, and also having the perspective that you're probably not going to die. And if there's a chance you're going to die, you probably shouldn't do it. So that falls under injury and death are kind of in the same level there.
So I got 2 comments.
Okay.
You just said, Charlotte said, sounds like you're meant to do what you do. And then Jeff Armstrong goes, it's the why me versus the why not.
Yeah. No, I actually have a great story to go along with that. My weight class is, I'm the super heavyweight for women's wrestling. It's a very small weight class for it to be super heavyweights. So we wrestle at like 165 pounds or 70, 75, 76 kilos. Is it 170 now? What is that? Okay, 165. 167, there we go. So that's the biggest that people can be. So essentially there's a lot of people in my weight class because that's like the average weight of the world. And it's also the only weight class that women are allowed to kind of grow into. So I have a lot of people that used to be 62 kilos or 130 pounds. And now I've just gotten bigger and stronger and have filled into this weight class of 76. So my weight class has a lot of depth to it. There's a lot of world champions. There's a lot of women who stick around because they don't have to cut a ton of weight for the weight class. The weight class just has a lot of depth for many reasons. So the top 8 ranked women were all on one side of the bracket for the 2014 World Championships. The first and second ranked people, which was me and China, wrestled first round. And there was just this little gauntlet that was happening. I just could not believe it. I looked at the bracket. I was like, this isn't real. This isn't real. And the top of the side of the bracket was just very new countries to women's wrestling, people that had only wrestled for a few years. And I just was looking at the top side of bracket. It's like so envious. I'm like, why can't they be up there? And I end up having this very dramatic match. If you ever want to watch exciting wrestling match, me versus China 2014 is definitely what you want to Google. I'm losing most of the match, so don't have high expectations for it, but I win. And I remember thinking that exact statement, that someone has to come out of this. And I think the pressure got to some of these top women because we had the top 8 of us in this bottom side of the bracket, and we all were just trying to beat each other up. And it could have been separated out beautifully, but I end up beating China first round. She comes back and takes third. I win the tournament. I have a fairly easy match in the finals because the top side was interesting. And I had a really tough road. And I thought to myself the whole time that someone has to win this. Why not me? Like, why can't I be the person who's going to come out of this gauntlet of wrestling? And I did. And it was definitely my hardest world championship, just because it was just really a tough road. And this last one was my easiest because it was I was on the top side of the bracket. Yeah, even with my little nubs, that was a good one.
So we have a comedian in the audience.
Ooh.
Maria asked, did you tell people before your match, I can beat you with both my hands tied up? And did they seem sad?
It definitely was an ongoing joke from my teammates. What are you? I don't know. Oh, okay. So my husband's mother, my grandmother-in-law, she was a missionary. She didn't grow up with sports. She's like very not sure about me wrestling. She's very supportive in her own way. She just doesn't really get it, but she was very kind. She like figured out Google. She pulled up my match. She watched it, and she calls me up and she's like, I thought you did real wrestling. And I'm like, Grandma, I do real wrestling. And she's like, no, that the girl in the final didn't even try. And I'm like, that's a big, scary woman, first off. I was like, and second of all, she was trying a lot. She's like, no, she just like looked like she was straining on her face, and then you just rolled her over, and then the match was over. And I'm like, Grandma, I'm just really good at that move. I can't tell if this is the best compliment ever or if this is super offensive. But it definitely was a moment that I like really stuck out, because it was hilarious. Like, I just was sitting there like, I can't believe you thought it was fake wrestling. She's like, I thought it was scripted. I was like, no, she really wanted to win. I just I had her number.
All right. Donna Gray, how do you motivate yourself when you really don't want to do your workout?
I was gonna say, yeah, my motivator's right here. So in the last year, I've actually had a lot of fun with my sister. My sister was a wrestling coach out east, and before this Olympics, I was like, hey, you want to come like have some fun for 6 months and quit your job and come just be my training partner? And I just needed some joy in some of my workouts, and we laugh so much. We have abs. So we don't do any abs. We just have them from laughing constantly. And it's really kind of been entertaining because my I did say your joke. But it's been really fun to have her and her to motivate me. And so I guess the answer is like have a battle buddy, because there are times when she's an early riser and she's like trying to get me out of bed, and I'm like, can we do it later? And she's like, no, I'm awake. You told me this time, let's do it. So she keeps me accountable. She forces me to eat breakfast. She forces me to like have a water as I walk out the door. She's like my mom. Coming from my mom's question. Mom, she's taking really good care of me. But no, yeah, she's been very, very motivating in the sense that she is a cheerleader and my training partner, and I get to hit her when I'm mad at her, which is really fun perk about wrestling. So it's definitely been fun to have her around and have her help motivate me. But when it comes to moments of motivation, I don't know if this is very helpful for this group, but I really like working out. And for a while in like 2017, I told myself, I'm like, I'm not doing anything except like that's for wrestling. Like I was kind of mad at wrestling. I was like, I want some distance away from you. And so I just started working out and enjoying my workouts. And I was like, oh, this is great. Like I really like doing this and I like doing this. And then when I came back, I only had to add in like 25% effort. And I realized that I base like my base happiness level of what I enjoy to eat and the amount of alcohol I consume and the amount of sleep I like to get and the amount of workouts that I like to do created a pretty good base athlete. And so I just had to take a few very specific things that have taken 10 years to figure out what they are, but these 25% effort things that really suck and that I really hate doing, but I just had to bite the bullet for those 25%. And I was able to recreate with less effort and less time than I had the quad before. And so when I won my first 2 world titles, I was eat, sleeping, and breathing wrestling. It was very stressful. And I ended up just kind of getting overwhelmed with it. These last 2 titles, I've had a lot more balance. My husband and I go on more vacations. I disconnect from wrestling. I'm not on the mat every single day. And I found a better balance to do that. But it came from me understanding that there is a base level of workout that I enjoy. And I hope you guys find those pieces that you enjoy, because everything you do isn't hard, There is the moments of embracing the suck and making sure you're pushing through pain, but there's also things you like about it. There's things that make you feel strong. There's moments that you are encouraged and feel effortless. And it's nice that you get to celebrate that our bodies do cool stuff and can move weight and move our bodies in general. And so I really appreciate that. And I sometimes try to have the perspective of that I like some of these things, and that's helpful to kind of have that perspective. So that way I don't go into the workout just thinking about the shitty squats. I get to think about the things I like too. And that's why I enjoy laughing with my sister, because that's something I like. Any other questions?
Debbie asks, do you intend to go for a 6th world title?
So there's, my husband says he won't give me a baby unless I have one. So I think my hands are tied, but there's an Olympics and a World Championships this year. So there's a pretty good chance that I'll be in good shape for it and be able to easily make the team. So if I do my job at the Olympics, we're on the team for the World Championships. So it's really just buying a ticket to Norway. And so yeah, I think I will try for a 6th title, but it kind of depends on what happens at the Olympics too. So I'm going to see if I feel fulfilled after I become an Olympic champion. Then I might be like, nope, I won an Olympic title. I want a baby now. So we might have some negotiations on the table. I might hand him an Olympic medal and get a baby out of it. So that's the plan. Sorry, this pandemic was such a bummer. We were planning to have a kid now, and now that the Olympics got pushed back a whole year, I'm like, gotta do this another year. Okay. So yeah, I keep laughing because I thought I was going to be looking for like a baby bump right now, and now I'm looking for abs, and I'm like, this is a very different experience. Like, so yeah, it's different.
And then Barbara asked, what made you at the age of 6 decide to start wrestling? It was and still is a very male-dominated sport.
It's true. So my father was the youngest of 7 boys, and he had 4 daughters. But it actually was my mom's family that really loved wrestling. And my mother had her dad who wrestled and her brother who wrestled, and her nieces and nephews wrestled. And so her brother was the head coach, and her brother was like, yeah, I'll take care of her. And so I was a pretty hyper kid, and my parents threw me into wrestling. My mom was actually a basketball coach, and she was like, I guess this will make you a good basketball player. So every year I'd come back and she'd be like, you want to play basketball now, don't you? You're my tallest daughter. You want to play basketball. And I'm like, no, mom, I want to wrestle. And so I just kind of stubbornly stuck with wrestling. And then it became an Olympic sport when I became a freshman in high school. And all of a sudden I was like, wow, there's people who win medals and go to the Olympics and get their college paid for. And I've now had an extremely accomplished career where I've been able to travel the world and been to almost 30 countries. I have made money. I've been sponsored by amazing companies like ASICS and different people. I've gotten my undergrad completely paid for, my master's completely paid for. I've been able to just really enjoy fitness into my 30s, which is not something I would have ever thought when I was a teenager that you could do. There weren't a lot of women who were in their 30s still competing and dedicating their lives to something. And that's a freedom that women have right now that wasn't available in the previous generation. And so it's very empowering to be a woman right now and know that I have some freedom of financial freedoms, some freedoms with my body, freedoms with my ability to choose what I want to do. And thankfully, my husband supports me continuing to train and to try to do hard stuff. So it's a very cool thing to do.
And for those of you that aren't aware, well, first of all, Geneva is our behind the scenes. She's my right hand man for the 12-week challenge. She's putting all those amazing quotes and motivational quotes and stuff on the page for you. And then both of these ladies work very closely with Wrestle Like a Girl, who is also our sponsor for this event. And their mission is to empower women through the sport of wrestling to become leaders in life. And so these women are partially responsible for getting women's wrestling sanctioned in states that previously were a male-dominated sport, and girls had to wrestle on boys' teams. And beyond that, internationally for women's rights and just human rights. So they're doing amazing work in that capacity. So, yeah.
I met a little girl this past weekend, 13. Oh my gosh, I have to tell you.
Yeah.
So we wrapped up.
Get into us real quick on the chat.
Well, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you guys listening and tuning in. I know we're a little over the hour, but I really had fun. It was good to talk about pain. I hope that you guys took something away from that discomfort. I know that change is uncomfortable and pain is uncomfortable, but it's definitely something that you have to do and kind of embrace a little bit in order to create what our goals are down the line. So that is a step that we have to kind of do and embrace. But thank you. I think we're going to sign off.
Well, one more last question. If
one more?
we want to watch you qualify for the Olympics, will that
Yes,
be
it'll be live. So I'm already in the finals. So it'll be on NBC or NBC Sports. And I will compete the day before Easter. So I don't know. Do you know what time the trials are at? So we'll wrestle best 2 out of 3. And so they'll compete all of the weight classes together. So men's freestyle, men's Greco-Roman, and women's freestyle will just alternate, boom, boom, boom. So you'll get to watch all the Olympians be made on that one day. But it essentially will be like my first match will happen, and then they'll do a ring of people, and then my second match will happen. And it's only going to take 2 matches. So you don't have to stick around for the third. Yeah. So you don't have to have your whole day planned out for that. But yeah. Oh, follow me at Adeline Gray. It is going to be an exciting year. There's an Olympics, World Championships, there's Olympic trials, there's world trials. So it's pretty fun to do something so different. So please do tune in. I'm at Adeline Gray as kind of all my social medias on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. So thank you. Bye.